Most of you have probably heard of grade thresholds. You know, the thing that determines whether you pass or fail. The general thinking is that if the threshold is low, then you're more likely to pass. And if it's high, well, good luck passing. The problem with this is that's not quite how it works. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly how it works, and I'll even explain to you how Cambridge comes up with these grade thresholds. Make sure to watch till the end, because as of 2023, Cambridge have made a huge change to grade thresholds, and I think you might find it interesting. But anyways, subscribe and let's dive right in. To even understand how Cambridge comes up with grade thresholds, we first need to understand what they are. And according to Cambridge themselves, a grade threshold is the minimum number of marks that a candidate needs to obtain a particular grade in a paper or in a subject. So in other words, these are grade boundaries required to obtain a particular symbol from A to E. If we look at paper 12 for 9709 A-level maths in October-November 2023, we can tell that according to grade thresholds, you needed a minimum raw mark of 55 out of 75 to get an A, a raw mark between 46 and 54 to get a B, 35 and 45 to get a C, 24 and 34 to get a D, 13 and 23 to get an E, and anything below that is a U. Now that we have some idea of what grade thresholds are, why does Cambridge even use grade thresholds? Why not just give out raw marks? If you're doing your A-levels at a high school, you've probably written some sort of mock exams and failed terribly. And you probably cried about it after thinking that maybe you're stupid, you're dumb, this is not meant for you. Maybe that's true, but in most cases, it's not. The problem with most school exams is that they don't apply threshold. So you might have an extremely difficult paper and you end up having an A student getting a C grade, and you might just think that they underperformed, but in reality it was the difficulty of the paper that got them. And so this is why Cambridge applies grade thresholds, to cater for the difficulty of the paper, such that A students will always get an A grade and C students will always get a C grade. So if the paper is extremely difficult and an A student gets 54 out of 75, which is 72%, and according to Cambridge's grading scale, this is equivalent to a B symbol. Cambridge would then create grade thresholds to make sure that this mark of 54 falls within the 80 to 89% band, so that the A student gets an A. This means that in theory, if you're an A student, you should always get an A in whatever Cambridge paper that you write after a threshold is applied. To quote Cambridge on why grade thresholds exist, they say, "Our objective in setting grade thresholds is to maintain standards from year to year so that a student who performs the same way gets the same grade regardless of when they took their exams." So this makes your grades comparable to anyone who's ever taken Cambridge exams, regardless of what year they took their exams in or how difficult they claim their exams were. And in a sense, it makes the whole process fair. Now if you want to know how these grade thresholds then translate to your final grades, you can watch the video that I made on how Cambridge actually calculates your grades, which goes into a lot of detail about how this whole process works. So naturally you'd think, cool, I know what grade thresholds are, I know why grade thresholds are, but how? How does Cambridge come up with these grade thresholds? A lot of things come into consideration, the main thing being difficulty of the paper. I'd assume that this is gauged by how students perform in the paper. And the general trend is that the more difficult a paper is, the higher threshold will be. Apart from the difficulty of the paper, they don't really explain how the rest of the process works. They say that we set grade thresholds for each syllabus using a mixture of statistical evidence and professional judgment. I'd assume by statistical evidence they're referring to the performance of students both in the current year and in previous years. As for the professional judgment part,
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
If you've been learning under pretty much any exam board that uses grade thresholds, then you're aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a pretty massive effect on grade thresholds. In 2020, most exams were cancelled. Grades were given according to your teacher's recommendations. Contrary to popular belief, your teachers love you. As a result, These grades were more generous than would have been the case if exams had taken place. Naturally, Cambridge has been trying to get grade thresholds back to the pre-COVID standard, that's 2019 and before. In the past few years, they've had to do this very carefully and in alignment with teacher-assessed grades, because some students in certain countries were not yet able to write exams. Hence, some grades were still teacher-assessed, and so Cambridge couldn't be too strict with thresholds, as this would have put those who actually took exams during this period at a massive disadvantage. And starting from 2023, the thresholds have been approaching the standards of 2019. Papers were slightly more challenging, and students weren't too happy about it. So what should we expect for 2024? It's not looking too good, to say the least. If you want to get an idea of what these thresholds will look like, over the next month I'll be predicting the thresholds for maths, bio, physics, chemistry for all three variants. So make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any of it. And what grade thresholds do you expect for the Major series? Leave your answer in the comments down below. Bye bye.